Good morning, early game crew. It's Wednesday, and we're in for a fun one today. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen, and I had the light of the Lord shine upon me at 5:33 this morning. You ever have one of those mornings where, instead of pressing snooze, you press off on the phone?
It's a tough spot.
And something in me woke me up at 5:33. And
Lord.
Yeah, the light of the Lord shined upon me at that moment, and I have never woken up quicker in my life.
I imagine you said,
in my life,
gee willikers.
You know what? It's exactly what I said. Yeah, what I said was what I yelled out was totally FCC appropriate, and totally something I can repeat.
But don't you hate that panicked feeling? It's like, no, and then it's like you scramble.
Oh, you go from eyes like a little shut to like zoom, like my pupils get like really big, and
don't need a caffeinated beverage on a morning like that.
No, you're good.
Notice I don't have one right now because A, we did not have time, and B,
still rolling.
We're good.
Still on adrenaline.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
Central nervous system
fried.
Kicked in. It's working overtime right now, but we made it. So if you're like me and you're living on a razor's edge this morning, just know you're not alone.
It's all good.
We're all there.
And again,
awake.
Much like yesterday, this is the first half. We can call a timeout.
Yep.
Get the team together, talk in the huddle, say, hey, long game ahead of us. Didn't get off to the start that we would like, but we have enough time to keep playing, and we're going to finish this game.
So much time.
That's right.
Don't even need a full timeout for this one. I'm just calling the 30. Right? We're just getting the 30. We can just huddle up. We don't have to get to the bench. We can just huddle up.
This is when your coaches say, hey, guys, calm down.
Yeah.
We're good.
I had a coach who he'd get timeout early in the game and be like, y'all forget which sport we're playing. He sounded
that's brutal.
Like too. Y'all forget which sport we're playing. And then we're all just like, nope, we're good. He's like, all right. And that's it. That'd be it.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Sometimes it's all you need. But that coach spoke to me over a decade plus ago. Mm-hmm. South Carolina's head coach Shane Beamer spoke yesterday, and there was a lot from that we can get to, not just because you're playing Texas A&M on the road, who just so happens to be the number 3 team in the country, just so happens to be playing their best football right now, and is on pace to get to the SEC title game for the first time in their history. But you are in a must-win game, sitting at a 3-6 record, where you must pull off this massive upset on the road if you want to continue playing football after the Clemson game, right? It's never been more do or die than it is right now, right? But now you're doing it with a coaching change because you fired Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator. Mike Furry now has been tabbed as the interim offensive coordinator. It's the co-OC, but the primary play caller, right? I think that's the job that, or part of that job description that most people are interested in, right, is who's doing the play calling, right? Maybe you share the coordination duties with somebody from Monday to Friday, but who is the one that's on the headset calling the plays, talking to Lenore Sellers, and relaying that message? I think that's the one that people are more interested in right now. And that's exactly who took up a lot of that space yesterday in Coach Beamer's media availability was, how are things going with Coach Furry in that spot? Well, first thing he was asked, this will be cut 10, Jen, he was asked about maybe some of the tweaks that have been done to the offense now that you have had a little bit of an offensive coordinator reset.
I'd say there's been a pretty good tweaking. There's been some takeout, but then there's also been some add, So when you look at it, I'd say we probably have about the same number, or we will end up, we're getting ready to game plan third down and red zone here this afternoon and tomorrow, but when it all is said and done, we'll end up with about the same amount of plays, and there'll be some things, certainly you can't have radical changes, but there's some things that, from that Mike and Sean and Black and the rest of the staff maybe, like that they want to emphasize, or things that we were doing before that, again, they were part of the offensive staff when Mike Shula was the offensive coordinator, but it wasn't like they just went in their offices and Mike put together the plan and said, here it is. They were all in there and they're all accountable for it, but certainly There's different voices in there now that are leading the way, and there may be some things that they feel a little bit stronger about than maybe Mike did. So yeah, a little bit less of some stuff, maybe a little bit more of things, but ultimately doing what gives us the best chance to be successful that, fits our players, which is what we're trying to do each and every week. But it's been good. It's been good that we had a bye a week last week, David. Mike and the offensive staff, they really spent a lot of time the Sunday after the Ole Miss game and then the Monday after the Ole Miss game grinding through, kind of putting together an initial plan, and then Tuesday and Wednesday with meetings and practice, and then Thursday before guys went out on the road recruiting, and then back in here on Sunday. So it's been good. I'm eager to watch them play on Saturday.
So some tweaking has been done. I think the main takeaway there is that, yes, you're going to take some stuff out. Maybe you're going to run more of stuff that you really like. But maybe there are some things in there that Mike Furry liked a lot that Mike Shula didn't particularly want to call as much. If there's going to be a difference between those two gentlemen, we're going to find out what Mike Furry preferred once we see the play calling tendencies on Saturday in college.
I have a hunch. I have a hunch.
I love a good hunch.
I think one position group might be a little bit more featured than they were before.
Kickers.
No,
Oh!
not the kickers, not them. I just have a suspicion that maybe some of the things that Mike Furry liked before may have involved some of his players.
As in the wide receiver.
As in the wide receivers.
Yes.
I imagine there might be some more plays called specifically for specific wide receivers in this version of the offense. Not saying they weren't there before, but they've been shuffled to the top of the deck now.
Oh, it's one of those things where, yeah, I can recommend something for dinner every night, and it probably doesn't get very well considered, right? But if I have the house to myself, guess what we're having?
Ice cream.
Ice cream for dinner. Bam, 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 bam. And it's the best day ever. It's the best day. I am in control.
You think when I make this dinner for myself that I'm having a balanced meal with vegetables and a starch and a protein? No way. No way. I am putting
not.
sauce and ketchup and fried and whatever because it's me. I get to call it.
That air fryer is working overtime.
And you know what's even better? If it's just me and the baby. She has no objections either. She's like, yes, more cookies.
Yes. This is great. Let's do this all the time.
And I imagine that's what some of those offensive coaches are saying.
Mike Furry, whenever he was told he's going to be the interim offensive coordinator, you play it cool at the moment, but deep down inside, he's like, yes, more wide receivers.
There was that
More
more.
receiver involvement.
Exactly.
I get to do whatever I want with this offense and manipulate it to my will.
Yeah, I imagine there's some tweaks that were being made, and probably I would imagine you'll see more designs specifically for that position, which there should be because those are guys who have proven that they can make plays when given opportunities, and they have not been given opportunities this year.
Now, if we had to put a number on the percentage of passes that have been screens, right? Because that's one thing I think of when I think, okay, wide receivers coach now gets to call the plays. New teacher in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
We know exactly what it is that they love to do. Shane even alluded to he's going to be doing the stuff that he really likes to do that maybe got buried in the deck a little bit. So now that we know that, and we had to think, okay, well, what does that look like? I'm thinking maybe we're looking at more screens. Maybe we get more screen passes as a measure of, or maybe not as a measure, but as like an extension of your running game, because it's going to be really hard to run on Texas A&M. So far this season, 12% of South Carolina's passes in total in the 2025 season have been screen passes. What do we think that number might look like against Texas A&M in terms of trying to get the ball to some of those athletes out in space early?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have the aspect that a wide receiver coach is calling the game, and I always say coordinators call the game from their perspective. Mm-hmm. It's always what it is. You call the game from the spot that you see the game, and you see the game naturally from more than likely the place where you had the most experience.
Yep, where you played.
That being said, I would say if it's 12%, I might bump it up to 20. Might bump it up to 20. And also, there's also a strategic aspect of it because you're going to need to provide help for your offensive line against that pass rush. So one of the remedies for a great pass rush is to screen them to death, and I predict 20%
I could definitely see a lot
at
of it.
minimum.
And I think what you alluded to too is it's kind of an elixir for a struggling run blocking unit. Mm-hmm. I mean, 3 teams have run for over 200 yards against A&M this year. One, I think we can chalk up to a lot of weak one-iness. Another one in Arkansas, I think we can kind of chalk up to them having a scrambling quarterback, which you have, but they also, Mike Washington's a really good running back. Running the ball is like what Arkansas actually did really well this year. That was part of what their offensive identity is, even if stopping a nosebleed was not part of that team's identity. They still have been able to run the ball with reasonable success this year. And then Missouri, that's just what they do, right?
Right.
Like
That's their identity.
That's their identity. They will run that outside zone, and you will get got by them occasionally, right? So when those 3 things are the case and your offensive line unit is struggling and you really only have substantial success, I mean, when I looked at it the other day, running to one side of the line of scrimmage is the only one where you've had substantial success with a larger sample size. Maybe, just maybe, that leads me to believe that maybe in terms of helping out the offensive line, one of the best things you can do is get your best blockers out in the perimeter in terms of who's in that wide receiver room and say, hey, look, you're not touching the ball today until you block. You've been blocking the best in practice. I'm going to give you the ball here on the screen to start the game, and we're going to see who really wants to catch the ball today.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the old school, when our offense, when I played way back then, Skip Holtz, they used to have the period SDDs, not STDs, SDDs.
Thank you for the enunciation. SDDs.
Screens, draws, delays. And that was just a whole period of practice that they had devoted to running those specific types of plays, which are designed for second and longs, maybe third and longs, but even first downs if you want to neutralize a pass rush that may be overwhelming or overly aggressive defense, which Texas A&M is not necessarily over-aggressive in their play calling, but they are very good.
They're very good.
Yeah, and our offensive line has not been. So that is definitely going to be something that I will look to see utilized a lot more as a strategy.
Yeah, that defense is very good. We'll get to that at 6:30 in terms of how good that defense is and some of the challenges of having to balance having a new offensive coordinator and preparing for that defense, right? But if you can even just break it down to a simple screens, draws, delays. Oh, that's a lot of simple stuff in the playbook. That's
It's all there.
Science. It's all there. Every team in America has
Correct.
screens, draws, delays. And then it just goes down to execution. And if that kind of leads to you playing more free and more fast, we'll hear from some of the players later, specifically Luke Doty here in the next segment. But what I think the common denominator of the offensive players who spoke yesterday, the theme wants us to play faster and wants us to be able to play, kind of more without thinking, right? Thinking less, just play fast. No paralysis by analysis here. And those 3 things are things that everybody's got. Then they just come down to execution. Mm-hmm. Some teams can halfback draw you to death if they execute it.
Correct.
Right? And that's a fundamental building block of most offenses is how do you execute the stuff that you actually have. So I can definitely see screens, draws, delays being something that you're going to have to lean on against this defense because the more you have to think and the more you try to break it down, especially considering what Eli Drinkwitz said about them, that he got pretty much duped by that defensive coaching staff, something that man does not say often, that might be your best course of action in terms of having some success and giving yourself a chance to win this very hard-to-win football game. The players spoke yesterday, too. Luke Doty shed some light. This is a guy that's played for several offensive coordinators here. He's been here for a while, so this is not his first rodeo. But what did Luke Doty say when he talking about the dynamic? What did he say on what has changed so far with Mike Furry as the play caller? We'll hear from Luke coming up next on the early game.
Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home, you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
In Swansea, there's an accident, Highway 178 near Whetstone Road. Aside from that, across the Midlands, things looking pretty good. 65 will be our high today, though breezy at times. Overnight low of 40. Tomorrow, 69 for the high. Again, 40 the overnight low, but we hit 70 on Friday, and we'll be in the mid-70s for this weekend. So kind of enjoying that a little bit, just cooler mornings on the way. And right now, it is 38 on 107.5 The Game.
Now, Luke Doty, one of the more interesting players on the roster because of his career path, right? Came in, was playing quarterback right away. Part of that team that won 7 games, and I don't think anybody expected them to win 7 games. His role has changed from playing wide receiver some to playing backup quarterback some, and seeing a lot of change throughout the program. He has been the ultimate Shane Beamer era program player at South Carolina. He has seen it all. He has also seen different offensive coordinators. He played under Marcus Satterfield. He played under Dowell Loggins. He played under Mike Shula. And now he's getting ready to get Mike Furry.
He played under Mike Bobo.
Mike Bobo. Oh, how can I forget? Oh, how can I leave that one out? This is his 3rd Mike as an offensive coordinator.
I done seen it all. Yeah, dude.
I like Mike.
He
3rd Mike's.
He likes Mike a lot. Give him the sticker.
I just wonder how in his mind he's like, oh, was that Mike's offense? Was that this Mike's offense? When they call the play and he's like, oh, which offense was that? I got to go with my files.
He goes, was that Mike's offense? Then he goes, which one? Some players don't get 3 different offensive coordinators their entire career.
Correct.
Let alone 3 separate Mikes. Mm-hmm. He's got 3 different Mikes.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, he's been here. He's been here for a long time, and I think that's a great avatar for the instability that's been at offense.
Yeah.
Because one player, what a great picture. One player should not be in college for 7 years or 6 years, whatever. That's not the case. But also another player should not experience 4 different coordinators in that same time period.
It's okay, Mike. Or not Mike. It's okay.
Which one?
Yeah, which one? It's okay, Luke. College was the best 6 or 7 years of my life, too. Mine was for a little bit of different reason. You're getting multiple degrees here. I did it for one, okay? I did it for one. We've all been there. But in stat of the day, there's only one more Mike in here than there have been Mike's offensive coordinators for Luke Doty. In this room that Preston and I are sitting in, not counting Jen's behind the glass because it's technically another room, there are 4 Mikes in here.
Uh-huh.
And we just need one more Mike calling plays for Luke Doty to finish the entire row.
Not Ed, and Eddie, but Mike, and Mike.
The South Carolina offensive coordinators. That just occurred to me here as we started this segment. How many
not on the
separate
rundown.
Mikes? No, it was not.
Okay. As we digress, Luke Doty,
Yes.
the offense, the new Mike calling plays. What does he have to say about it?
A new offensive coordinator, not different for him, but what is different is the change in the middle of the season, right? That part is going to be a little new to him. So that's one thing I wanted to know when I realized Luke Doty was going to be speaking. I was like, okay, we can maybe pick his brain on what happens during a coordinator change and how much is different whenever you do it at this stage in the season. This will be cut 18, Jen, or 19, yeah, cut 19. I asked Luke Doty about the effect of the midseason offensive coordinator change and how that's different. Here was Luke's response.
Yeah, I think it, you see it all the time. I mean, it's just another way to, try to get a spark, or something that, we need to kind of get going a little bit. Obviously, we're not where we want to be offensively. We haven't played the way we want to play. This will, maybe get us a spark when we step out on the field. And obviously it's on us to, as players, to kind of take that in stride and do the things that we need to do as far as preparation and, knowing what to do when we step out there for that spark to happen. But, sometimes change is good, and, we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
The word of the cut, spark.
Luke has been around a lot of coaches, and he has mastered coach speak. If he doesn't have a degree in anything else, he has a degree in coach speak.
I do believe that is the career path he is going to go in after.
He's definitely on his way. He's bilingual coach speak fluently. And he said a lot there. I don't know. You don't see this all the time. A mid-coaching change. You don't see this all the time, so it's not new. And they need more than a spark. Because even the concept of a spark is like, it just happens. We don't need a spark. We need somebody to light a fire with a match.
Spontaneous combustion is what you're requesting.
A blowtorch. Yeah. Not a spark. Yeah, a spark just, whoa, we had a spark. That was crazy. No. They need more than that. They need And this is where I was even going back to what Shane said last clip. You can drastically change in 2 weeks. You can. And this offense has proven statistically that they need a drastic change. They cannot just trot out the same, I love that word trot, because whenever something trots out, it's bad.
It's lackadaisical.
Yes. Don't trot out that same offense. You know, they can have a radical change, and I would argue that they need a radical change, not a spark. They need a full-on fire to happen with this offense.
Well, because this situation does call for desperation, right? I mean, you are fighting for your season against maybe the hottest team in college football, one of, right? Like Ohio State's been a buzzsaw. Indiana has proven they're a really good team. Texas A&M's in that group. I mean, in terms of the hottest teams in college football, those three are kind of what I'm looking at right now as just like the teams that are playing the best in the sport right now. And you got to beat them on the road if you want to play in a bowl game. And Shane has made it very clear, and rightfully so, that bowl games matter. That getting to that spot matters. Playing any type of football after the season, getting those practices does matter, right? And it can help you out. And you got to be able to change like a whole lot of what you do on offense, especially when the margins are so thin. You got to get these guys to execute better than they have all year, because there is no more time to waste. There's no more losses that you can have, right? You lose on Saturday, you have 2 games left, and nice knowing you. That was that nice knowing you 2025 season. That was it. The desperation factor needs to be there. So
it can be no more desperate than where they are right. Well, it can be. It can be. It can be. It can be. But as of right now, if you wanted to go to cliche, like this is the game that's in front of us, we're only playing one game at a time, this is the most desperate game for right now. And this is the one they're playing. And it's an absolute bear. And that's what we're going to get to next, because that's one thing I wanted to ask Coach Beamer about. And he talked at length about it, about preparing for Texas A&M and what Texas A&M does defensively, all while incorporating a new play caller and having to kind of divvy out newer duties to other people on the coaching staff, because it's not just somebody else that moves into the offensive coordinator play calling role. Somebody has to step into other roles. It's next man up all across the coaching staff. That's a tall task on offense as it is. It's an even taller task when you're doing that and preparing for this defense at the same time. Then I asked Shane Beamer about that. We'll get his response to that question coming up next here in the early game. Hey guys, feeling like you lost your edge? Brain fog's got you struggling to focus? Maybe you're working out and not getting the results that you're used to? Well, there's a reason that you're not feeling like yourself, and it might be low testosterone. But you don't just have to live with it. You can call Dr. Dan Boltnight, and he will get to the bottom of it. Now, Dr. Boltnight isn't some faceless online program that you never get a chance to see. Dr. Boltnight personally tailors your treatment based on your labs and symptoms. And the best part about your labs, your initial consultation is absolutely free. So you can get your T-level checked. Listen, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. At the men's clinic, you'll find a non-threatening, comfortable environment that's open to hearing your concerns. And Dr. Dan Boltnight will take care of it for you. So don't wait. Call him at 803-875-MENS. That's 803-875-MENS. Or find them online at mensclinicsc.com.
Highway 178 near Whetstone Road in Swansea. The only accident we have to report right now. Not complaining whatsoever. 65 is going to be our high. Going to be a little bit breezy again today. The overnight low 40, 69 for your high tomorrow, 70 by Friday. Again, having those cooler mornings starting around like 40 degrees or so. So still going to want to bundle up in the morning for the next few days. But right now, we include this morning in that. It's 38.
It's a tough situation, having to change offensive coordinators, get a new play caller, having to win a game at the number 3 team in the country to keep your season going an extra week, and all doing that while playing a defense who just had one of the more offensive, or one of the more creative and best offensive minds in the sport basically admit, I got duped. Basically throw his hands up and accept defeat publicly. Tall task. Right? That's one thing that I really wanted to know yesterday walking into the football facility was how do you balance that against a defense like this? While also getting more insight, because we're going to start previewing this game a little more heavily starting tomorrow. Getting some insight on Texas A&M's defense and also doing it while you're undergoing this change. So that's what I asked Coach Shane Beamer yesterday at his press conference. We cut 17, Jen, and this was Shane Beamer's answer to my question.
From our staff standpoint, we'll be fine in that, you know, we got pros back in that room, and yeah, we're a little shorthanded in some ways, but those guys they work great together, and those guys back there in that offensive staff room will be they'll put a plan together that gives us a chance to go be successful. Having said that, easier said than done, you know, against this defense. One, it starts with the personnel. I mean, you look at the best teams in the SEC. In my opinion, Elijah, they're old, meaning they got a bunch of juniors and seniors. And Vanderbilt is that way. I think they start 21 juniors or seniors on their team right now. Alabama's that way, especially on defense, I believe. You look at A&M, I want to say they start like 9 or 10 juniors or seniors on their defense. The guys up front are all old. The linebackers are older guys. It's a lot of the same guys we've been playing, and then they've gone to the portal and brought in some guys, particularly on the defensive line, that have made them better. The defensive end, Hal, is an absolute freak show right now. I mean, their teams are double teaming him and triple teaming him, and he's still leading everybody in sacks all across the world. So he's a challenge along with everyone else. But then you couple that with a defensive-minded head coach who is a great defensive coordinator. I mean, we went out there in 2021 and I still have PTSD from that game. So does Zeb, with Coach Elko calling the defense that night. And he was really good then. He was really good at Duke. He's been an elite defensive coach wherever he's been. So now when you have a head coach that's running the defense like he is and is as involved as he is, it's aggressive, and they're well coached, and they're physical, and they got great personnel. So that's what makes it tough. Great players, a defensive-minded head coach, and they really keep you off balance from a schematic standpoint, beating, attacking protections. And I mean, the interception that they had right before the half against Missouri. I mean, Missouri's basically kept both tight ends in, and they got a 7-man protection, and they still get a guy free and hits the quarterback, and it turns into 7 points before the half on a 7-man protection. And they know how to attack what you're trying to do. They know teams are going to come into the game trying to take away Hal and all the other guys they have up front, and they know how to stay kind of one step ahead, and you have to go beat them.
So that's a lot. a lot on one's plate. You're an offensive coordinator. Say you're the new offensive coordinator. We know you want the stretch and catch offense.
That's right.
But you have to do it against this defense. And you know that a lot of the stuff they do, they're old.
Does this have to be my first game as a coordinator? Can I pick another one?
Like Mike Furry, my friend, you have no choice. This is the hand you are dealt.
Okay.
But a defense that is this old,
Yeah.
a defense that has this many weapons, and he alluded to the play at Missouri where, Matt Zollers gets hit, ball gets popped out, and it's scooped and run down to the 2-yard line so they can score right for halftime, where Missouri was in max protect, like ultra max protect. And guess what? Damian Sanford got there because of a twist in the middle of the line of scrimmage.
When Shane was talking about an old defense and having all these returning guys, I just started getting waved in nostalgia all the way back to last year when our defense was old. And we had a bunch of old guys who were playing. And we went and got a couple of transfer portal guys. And we had dudes that were making plays because they had been around for a long time. There is a value to experience, especially when you're playing in the SEC or playing football in general. It's not going to be necessarily physicality that everybody thinks about it. It's just game prep, awareness, and your ability to make decisions throughout a game is just sharpened when you're an older player. So I do think there is a lot of value to having a team that's old, but we're not necessarily young anywhere on our team. I mean, we on our offensive side of the ball, we have old guys. Those old guys are not playing well. So I hear you, but just being old does not necessarily means you are good, because we also have old guys who will be facing these other old guys, except our old guys are not playing well.
No, especially on the offensive line.
Our old guys that we got from the portal are not playing well. So I hear you, but let's move that off the table. Now let's get to scheme. What they do defensively does have some issues because Mike Elko is a dude, and he has the ability to dial some things up.
And that's even going back to like that play too. The communication required on your offensive line to be able to handle what A&M does up front is a task.
Stress test.
It is a real stress test, especially on the interior of your offensive line. Going back to that play, if you haven't watched Texas A&M Missouri, and you just want to know like what I'm talking about here, it's Missouri's last offensive drive, real offensive drive for halftime. They go back to pass. They're an obvious max protect, and Matt Zollers gets hit. He gets hit as he throws, and the ball gets popped up in the air. I think it was ruled a fumble. I think Shane alluded to it as an interception, but it was ruled a fumble because the ball did go backwards, but it was scooped up in the air, right, by another A&M player and taken down to the 2-yard line. But on that play, it wasn't the edge rushers who got to Matt Zollers. It was Damian Sanford, a linebacker who came up and had a little bit of a twist at the line of scrimmage or a stunt and gets a free run because you know what the center has to do? Work his assignment right there and, pass off the responsibility of that blitzing linebacker on somebody else. Right. And it's not like Missouri has a scrub at center, right? Connor Tollison's one of the better centers in the SEC. And even he, a little late on that assignment. He gets a free run to the quarterback, and Zollers has no time. It didn't matter that they made the adjustment to go max protect to try to get the ball out. It didn't matter that they were doing that to try to let a play develop so they can maybe throw the ball near the sticks for first down. Because Texas A&M was good enough to make you still make mistakes despite you accounting for them bringing the pressure. They're going to bring pressure. They know that you know that they're going to bring pressure, but they're still going to find a way to get in your backfield because that's the type of defensive minds that we're working against.
Absolutely, and that's why going back to the SDDs are so important, because when you run your screens, when you run your draws, when you run your delays, it makes the defense hesitate for just a split second. Instead of running full speed, they have to be thinking, oh, maybe I'm free because there's a screen coming, or maybe there's a draw coming, or whatever. And just maybe that split second gives you a chance to breathe a little bit. Otherwise, just lining up against them does not lend to success.
No, which is why, again, the S part in SDDs, no, not spiritually driven data, screens, draws, delays, is going to be important because I think getting the lineman in space, right? If you are not maybe built to stand there and protect for 3 or 4 seconds, if it behooves you to get those guys out in space and throw screens to your running back and try to get or try to really move the action from the middle of the field to beyond the hash marks, that might give you a little bit more of a chance because it doesn't play into the hands of what A&M does really well.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be something that we're going to be watching for as the week continues. But Shane talked a lot about Texas A&M yesterday too, and even described the experience at Texas A&M, and well, it's interesting. He talked about that after talking about maybe some, air quotes, bulletin board material he thinks he might have given them after last year's game. What are we talking about? Well, you'll find out next year in the early game.
Press here for Cato's Power Equipment. Cato's Power Equipment has been serving the Midlands since 1983. That's over 40 years. And third-generation owner Ben Cato provides top-notch service, great deals, and the mom-and-pop values that you love. Ben is determined to raise the standards of sales, service, and retail. At Cato's, we're proud to offer a wide selection of new and pre-owned mowers, tractors, and more. So if you're ready to invest in something new, the friendly team is there to make the process easy, help you choose the right equipment, find financing options, and keep your gear running strong with expert service and parts. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a seasoned landscaping pro, Cato's has you covered. We have a huge selection of new and pre-owned mowers, powerful tractors, and all the gear you need to tackle any outdoor project. So swing by Cato's Power Equipment today or call them at 803-254-3711. That's Cato's Power Equipment at 803-254-3711.
So yesterday, Shane went out of his way to discuss something that kind of went viral from a Texas A&M fan site. And in the midst of that, ends up describing the atmosphere at Texas A&M in a complimentary way, but a way I did not see coming. So with that being said, Jen Jensen, let's get cut 4 here.
Somebody sent me this thing on social media last night that some A&M guy is taking my comments in the press conference last year about our fans were a true 12th man as like some sort of shot at Texas A&M. So one, if you're the Texas A&M site that put that out last night, somebody sent it to me. You're really reaching if you need to find this to motivate the Aggies to come play Saturday in College Station. By no means was that any kind of criticism when I said 30 minutes or 20 minutes after the A&M game last year that our fans that night in Williams-Brice were a true 12th man. If anything, that was a compliment to the Aggie fans. So anybody that took that otherwise, you're really, really, really reaching. I told our players the other day, like, I love going to play at this place. I love the pageantry. I love as I told you guys, the core. Our first year there, we went out there. I don't know if this is like every game, but you come in behind, the buses bring you in, and the horses have come through before and they've crapped all over the road, and then the people are like sweeping the horse poop out of the road as the buses come in. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, my thoughts exactly, Lulu. Correct. I don't know what that tradition was, but it was awesome. And then people told me when we went out there about the horses on the field and looking out for stuff they may have left behind. I mean, it's awesome. It's great pageantry out there, and I love going out there. So if whatever A&M site was offended by that, I apologize, but not really, because it wasn't a criticism at all. It was a compliment to our fans that they were a 12th man, just like the Aggie fans have the tradition of being the 12th man. So just needed to get that off my chest because somebody sent that to me last night.
So, one, somebody taking something out of context. Totally stunned that would happen in 2025. This
On
is
the
my
internet?
shocked voice. On the internet?
Right.
Whoa.
That would never happen.
And did I hear something about, he said the 12th man is the stuff that's left behind by the horses? Was that what he said?
I think that's what I heard.
Okay. Just checking.
Texas A&M fan sites. I think I mean, those words were in the same sentence.
Just saying.
Maybe
Yeah.
ordered a little differently, but they were in the same sentence. But also, I didn't realize basically like playing Frogger with horse dung on the way to the stadium was a
Great
tradition.
tradition.
Yeah, from Texas A&M.
I wanna see the bus driver. Shoosh.
Might have to pick Randy's brain on that one, you know. A lot of lateral movement.
Yeah.
Didn't realize that was part of it. Didn't realize that was going to be a key to the game on Saturday.
Yeah. Hey, man, shout out to Texas Ags, whoever that dude is. You got your spotlight back up at the top. Non-shout out for the person who sent that to Shane. He didn't need to see that on social media. Shane, don't apologize for something you didn't do. You don't have to apologize if you didn't do anything. You really didn't even have to mention this. Nobody would be talking about this, but you don't have to apologize. You have a lot of bigger issues. And also, I'd like to state this. 12th man, bring it. Because as Lou Holtz used to tell us, they can't play. All they're going to do is buy tickets and sit in the stands. So if we wanted to put our wrestling mask on and turn heels, you walk out there, you say, 12th man, what you got? And just tell them to scream harder.
Oh.
That's if we were confident going in there.
What's the really funny thing is, what you're saying is 100% correct. Nobody in the stands can actually come out onto the field and play. But ironically enough, the reason the 12th man tradition started was because somebody had to come out of the stands and play in a game in 1922.
Funner times.
E. King Gill
Nice.
was in the stands, and they were running low on players, and they needed someone to come take snaps. And guess what? There's an able-bodied gentleman in the stands. Come out here and play. And that's how the whole thing started.
E. King Gill?
E. King Gill.
Legend.
Yes. He was a former football player. He was in the stands and was ready to suit up if he needed. And they pulled him out of the stands, and he suited up, and he played.
Well, these days you just get like a Little Caesars pizza or something, if you're in the stands and you're a lucky person, but not
Right.
like
Yeah, sometimes you might get lucky and get free pizza.
yeah, but
Sometimes
not
you
get
get
to
asked
play.
to play. Yeah, some people, historically speaking, have been asked to play games.
I imagine they had to forfeit that game because he had no more eligibility, right? He was ineligible, I'm assuming.
You know,
right?
that's a great point.
Well, according COVID rules. Did he have a COVID year?
According to Texas A&M, they won the game, and the win still counts. 22-14.
Okay.
E.K. Gill. Shout out to you.
King
E.
Gill playing against the Center College Praying Colonels.
Praying Colonels.
Huge rivalry.
Oh, massive rivalry.
Everybody
People are
knows about the
always
Colonels.
saying that Center College and Texas A&M, one of the more hotly contested rivalries in sports. Hour number 2 coming up next. We'll talk about the latest unveiling of the college football playoff rankings.
Accident. And in Swansea, Highway 178 near Whetstone, getting that cleaned up. And boy, that forecast looking a little bit better. It's still going to be cool overnight, but like today's high, it's going to be breezy, 65 for the high, but it will have an overnight low of 40. 69 tomorrow, overnight low of 40. And we're going to have sunshine and 70 on Friday, mid 70s for the weekend. So certainly welcoming that weather back after that little cold snap we had. Right now, 38 on the early game.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. She's Jen Jensen. Preston Thorne has left the building. But we'll be rolling with you up until 9 o'clock. My man Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier joins me at 8:30 to talk about the offensive coordinator change and a little bit of the college football playoff ranking unveiling that happened last night. This is the second iteration of the college football playoff rankings. We are at that time of the year, and we already have a little bit of intrigue. Now, in terms of things that really shook things up on Saturday, Indiana avoided that disaster by narrowly escaping Happy Valley with a win. But BYU did not escape disaster. They went to Texas Tech and got pummeled by the Red Raiders in Lubbock. So they were really the first, them and Virginia, because Virginia ended up losing at home to Wake Forest, really our first, not eliminators. They still have a chance to get into the playoff, but they have been knocked out of the current playoff picture. I'll give you the top 15 of where things stand. Ohio State number 1, Indiana at 2, Texas A&M at 3, Alabama at 4, Georgia at 5, Texas Tech at 6, Ole Miss at 7, Oregon at 8, Notre Dame at 9, Texas at 10, moving up a little bit, Oklahoma at 11, BYU falls to 12, Utah is at 13, Vanderbilt improves to 14, and Miami back in the mix right outside the playoff bracket at 15. And for the first time this year, we have a group of 5 team that is in the top 25 of the college football playoff rankings. There were none last week. This week, South Florida moves in to that spot. They are at number 24. So with that being said, that left a lot of things up for debate, right? And if we look right now at what the college football playoffs first round would be if the season were to end today, still some intriguing matchups. South Florida would be playing at Georgia. Notre Dame would be playing at Oregon. That one would be a lot of fun. Miami would be playing at Texas Tech because Miami is now kind of shoot in as the ACC winner. Now, clearly that has to work itself out, but it does appear, with the way the committee has the ACC, that they are going to be a one-bid league. And then the 7-10 game would be Texas playing at Ole Miss. And that's with Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Alabama getting a bye. But the first part of the potential debate as to what the committee decided to do in terms of ranking teams this week can fall with Texas A&M and Indiana. Now, clearly, because South Carolina is playing Texas A&M, we've talked about the Aggies a little more this week, and we're going to more than we will at any point this season. But they are one of the hottest teams in college football. And they're coming off of a 21-point win on the road against a team that is a top 25 team in the college football playoff. Yes, the quarterback situation is dramatically different. And yes, maybe that would have been a different game. It would have been a more entertaining game if that were the case. But that was not the case. You still got to win on the road against a top 25 team in the CFP rankings. And you did so by 3 scores. Indiana did escape Penn State, but this is a Penn State team that had its season kind of get torpedoed after the firing of James Franklin. Not just the firing of James Franklin, but really the loss to UCLA on the road and then Northwestern at home got James Franklin fired. They have not won a game since. So they struggled to get that win. Some people were maybe clamoring for Texas A&M to jump Indiana in the college football playoff rankings. But now that's sparked a little bit of good debate, right? Whether or not the Aggies or the Hoosiers should be number 2. And last night on ESPN, the college football playoff chair, Mack Rhodes, who is the athletic director over at Baylor, weighed in on that Indiana and Texas A&M debate as we cut 28, Jen. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, one of our longer discussions in our meetings, and Indiana, gave them the edge again defensively. We talked about that last week. Certainly offensively as well. You think about Indiana's body of work and wins going at Oregon, against Oregon, at Eugene. The Iowa win. We certainly looked at the Texas A&M win in South Bend. That's a big win for them. The win versus Missouri on the road. Committee talked a little bit about Missouri, not the Missouri team that they've been. Their third quarterback, playing their third quarterback, a true freshman, and just Indiana found a way to find a way, and Mendoza, down the stretch, second, rated quarterback, passing efficiency. So those were all the things that we talked about and gave Indiana the edge.
So they did take into account Missouri's quarterback situation, which I have mixed feelings on, but I can certainly understand. But I would certainly understand making Indiana number 2 as opposed to Texas A&M for resume-based reasons, right? I think we can all agree that these two teams have maybe 2 of the best wins in college football this year, going on the road to beat elite opponents, right? Whether you look at SP+, right, and an SP+, which is kind of like a Ken Palm-like efficiency metric that ESPN uses, Bill Connolly invented. Oregon is number 3 team in SP+, and Indiana got their win at number 3 Oregon. Texas A&M got a win at number 6 Notre Dame. If you use FPI, which is another metric the committee has at their disposal, Oregon number 3 in that ranking, Notre Dame number 5. So they're both incredibly good wins, one just a little better than the other by those metrics that they are using. And clearly they're using things like offensive SP+, defensive SP+. They're doing some eye test stuff, which I'm not really crazy for, because if I'm going to argue the merits of putting one team one spot over another, I would like to be able to quantify my argument a little bit, as opposed to saying the vibes are better. They look better on tape. They just look better. Not a great argument. That's not an evidence-based argument. And both Indiana and Texas A&M have a similar number of top 30 wins when it comes to things like SP+, FPI. Those all matter in this equation. So I don't really have a problem with Indiana and Texas A&M being where they're at. Do I think it matters a ton? Probably not. If we had to do the whole hypothetical SEC game thing, which I know the SEC does not lose in those hypotheticals, they never have and never will lose in the hypothetical, I think it would be a pretty even match between Indiana and Texas A&M. But there are other notables, right? Miami's a notable, and Miami's an interesting case right now, too, because Miami has been punished more for their losses in conference than anybody else has so far this year. Miami's kind of getting that Ole Miss and Alabama treatment last year of, yes, you may have scheduled well out of conference, but the losses that you're experiencing in conference play are the thing that's keeping you behind. Last week, Miami was 18, fresh off of their loss at SMU to give them loss number 2 this year. Their losses are to Louisville and SMU. SMU still in a position, mind you, to get to play in the ACC championship game. They're part of kind of that 5-team cluster at the top of the Atlantic Coast Conference of teams that just have one loss. Now, Louisville kind of shot themselves in the foot this past week by losing to California at home and giving them their second ACC loss. So it's tough sledding for those 2-loss ACC teams to find their way back into ACC title game contention. You're going to hope another team loses. You're going to hope the tiebreaker falls in your favor, but you're really no longer having your own destiny in your hands. You are going to have to bank on others helping you. But as of right now, Miami is technically in the college football playoff as the 11th seed, as the assumed ACC champion. But some people might argue that Miami should be there over Notre Dame, and I can certainly see that argument because guess what? Jen Jensen, we know who the better team is when they play each other because they did play each other. Yes,
that's true.
It was a long time ago, but at some point, these games have to matter. They have to count. At some point, we have to weigh out the evidence that our eyes tell us on the football field, which was Miami and Notre Dame shared a football field in the first weekend of the season, and Miami won that football game. So Notre Dame being ahead of Miami has been a point of contention for a few fans. And Miami's an interesting team because of where they're at in the ACC. There's a really good chance they don't get into the ACC title game, meaning you have to look at their resume essentially as an at-large. They didn't do that last night. They looked at their resume and they ranked them as being the highest-ranked ACC team. This seems like a little bit of a mess, doesn't it? Well, Mack Rhoades, the college football playoff chairman, was asked about Miami jumping 3 spots and what their resume and their position looks like.
Yeah, I mean, Miami, I think, Reese, you said it, we had some teams lose, And again, the conversation with Miami has been, about their consistency, especially on offense. They've been really, really good, on defense. Obviously, the head-to-head with Notre Dame comes up, and, so a lot of conversation about Notre Dame, 7 straight, better defensively than what they were at the beginning of the year. So all of those things played into it. We've got great respect for Miami. When you think about the eye test, they're really talented, both sides of the ball. Just need to be a little bit more consistent on the offense.
Well, in terms of being consistent on the offense, Mac, one thing I would suggest for Miami is to not have your quarterback throw the ball to the other team. I think 6 interceptions that have counted in the 2 losses for Miami.
That's a little powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an expert, football expert, but I'm just going to say that's a no.
Riveting stuff. If you want to win the game, don't have your quarterback throw it to the other team. Throw it to your team. That's analysis. That's what that is right there. But that would be my suggestion for Miami.
This is why you're an award winner.
That's right. It's for that hard-hitting Big J journalism right there. I have determined that you will be more likely to win games if you throw the ball to your team and not somebody else's. But Miami's had some trouble with that. And really, if we want to explain why Miami's in this situation, it's because of turnovers. And it's because of Carson Beck at times, playing well at times, but also being one of the reasons why your team has lost games. The Louisville game, you throw, 3 or 4 interceptions? 1 didn't count because of a roughing the passer penalty, but then you went on to throw more after that. And then the interception in overtime against SMU made it to where SMU just had to kick a field goal. But SMU said, why settle for a field goal? We can score a touchdown and win this thing in style. And that's exactly what they did. Mm-hmm. But Miami's an interesting spot, not just because of the polarization of their resume, because a win against Notre Dame looks really good. Again, Notre Dame's a top 5 team in SP+, a top 5 team in FPI, and they're currently, the number 7 team in the college football playoff rankings. That's pretty good. That's a really good win to have on your resume. The losses aren't terrible because Louisville and SMU are good football teams. But if the committee doesn't view your conference as a winner, then you got to win your league to get in. And it does appear that the committee is viewing the ACC as a 1-bid league. So we'll go to Cut 31 this time. This is Mac Rhodes talking about evaluating the ACC, which in turn kind of affects Miami's spot.
Yeah, so we really, we look at each team on its own. We don't look at, conferences. We look at each of the teams. And I think for the ACC, when you look at their non-conference schedule, there really are no signature wins other than Miami versus Notre Dame. And so when we're having that conversation, we do look at, schedule strength, record strength. That's certainly one of the metrics that come to play.
And you can evaluate the conferences that way, but you're going to have to make a Miami decision, right? Because, again, I don't think Miami gets their way into the ACC title game. Because in standings, they are currently sitting behind Louisville, who has 2 losses, and Louisville has that head-to-head over Miami. They're behind Duke, who's 4-1 in conference play, SMU, who's at 5-1, Pittsburgh, who is at 5-1, Virginia, who is at 5-1, and Georgia Tech, who is at 5-1. They're going to need help just to get into that conference title game. And if things kind of shake out the way it is with ACC only being 1 bid, Miami can have that signature win that Mac Rhodes talks about, but still not make it in. They will have to make a Miami decision one way or another. Now, there's a chance Miami could backdoor their way into the ACC championship game, win the ACC title game, and then take a lot of the decision-making away from the responsibilities of the playoff committee. Because then you just got to find where to put them. Because then they have that championship that makes them qualified for the college football playoff. But, buddy, if Miami does not make it into the ACC title game, which looks likely, then they're going to have to make a Miami-based decision, and it's going to make their jobs a little bit harder. A big night in hoops last night. We'll get an update of what happened with Dawn Staley and her team getting a big win in a rivalry game over Clemson, and recap some of the other big things that happened in the world of college basketball coming up next on the morning meeting.
I-20 eastbound at Highway 1 still working on that earlier slowdown. And nothing to work on as far as your forecast goes. Looking pretty nice. Overall, 65 for the high today. Going to still be a little bit breezy. Overnight low of 40. Then it'll be 69 tomorrow, 70 on Friday. And this weekend, mid-70s again. So back to the little more temperate for us. And this is why we live in South Carolina. But it is a little cool this morning. Certainly going to want to bundle up at least the next couple of mornings. It is 38 right now.
Now, we had a rivalry game played at CLA last night. And, of course, Dawn Staley and her team does what they've always done in that rivalry, at least what they've done, the last 14, 15 years, something like that. It's a pretty long streak. It is a pretty long streak that South Carolina has over Clemson. And last night, they did it in a manner in which I didn't expect them to do it. Well, that came from a 65-37 win. And we'll break that game down and hear from Coach Staley here for the morning meeting.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day.
Especially when you wake up on time.
That's right. Divine intervention.
Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
Absolutely, it is, especially if you get a little divine intervention to help wake up on time.
Yeah.
Dodge the bullet.
Usually Elijah's here, extra early in the mornings, but something just, you said it was a case of not hitting the snooze, but hitting off.
Yeah, and it's the wild thing is I must have done it a couple times because I set multiple alarms. And I think I did it multiple times.
Wow, you really were
just
not
clicking the wrong thing, and next thing you know, I wake up and I'm like, wonder what time it is. Oh, I'm on air in 27 minutes. But we still made it on time. That's a luxury of living close.
Absolutely, and being so perky this morning. You don't need any caffeine. You still have that adrenaline from when you it's on the clock.
As someone who does consume enough caffeine in the morning to awaken a corpse, sometimes the fear of God is a stronger thing to.
So you're doing okay not being caffeinated right now.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I think I got the light scared into me this morning.
There you go.
That works. That works.
Yeah.
Nature's caffeine of fight or flight kind of kicks in. I want to keep my job. I need to get out of here.
That's right.
I must be ready. But,
good stuff. But I'll tell you, good stuff last night on the court.
Especially defensively. What South Carolina did to Clemson defensively really allowed them to have a bad night on offense. Final score 65-37, South Carolina wins. And don't let that final score fool you. It was a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter. But you heard me talk about the defense. Would you like to guess, Jen Jensen, unless you know, which you might. I know you were locked in. How many shots Clemson made from the field in the fourth quarter?
Oh, gosh. 20.
The answer may surprise you. 0. They were 0 for 17 from the field in the fourth quarter.
I thought maybe,
0 for 17, including 0 for 9 from 3. Now,
okay. I was thinking attempted. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, attempted. Yes. They attempted 17.
Okay.
And missed all of them.
No.
Scored 2 points in the fourth quarter on free throws. Now, I am doing a thing this year where I am going, noting what happens. Because the 2 free throws they made were when they had the Chick-fil-A promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And which is at a certain point in either the last 10 minutes of the men's game or in the fourth quarter of the women's game, the opponent's going to shoot free throws. And if they miss both, everybody gets a free 8-count nugget from Chick-fil-A, right?
That's fun.
And they do this in a lot of arenas. But I got really curious, and shout out to Pablo Torre Finds Out as a podcast for going into the NBA games and using their data to see who is the best at giving people free chicken by way of missing free throws. And that was Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo, who shoots significantly worse at the free throw line whenever there's chicken on the line.
Interesting.
I want to find out what the effect of that promotion is here.
That's a foul stat.
At CLA. You could say so. You could say, it's, as of right now, what my data tells me is that when there's free chicken on the line, opponents so far this year are 2 for 4, which means only one, because obviously the promotion goes away when you make the first one. So I don't count the second free throw. If you make the first one, the second one's not counting to the data here. 2 for 4 when there is chicken on the line, and 1 out of the 3 ones I've gotten to chart, because I've been at 3 games. 1 of the 3 games that I've gotten to be able to chart, one team, or the crowd got chicken, right? So that makes it a 33% chicken success rate.
So that,
Gonna be keeping up with that this year.
or it's considered a chicken curse.
A chicken curse, because if they make all the free throws and no one's getting free Chick-fil-A,
Right.
then it's a little bit of a different story. But I'm keeping up with that this year. I want to find
That's
out
fascinating.
what the effect of the promotion has. My curiosity is getting the best of me. But right now, the chicken success rate at CLA is 33%.
Okay.
So if I'm not able to make a game and you're there and you're watching,
Yeah,
I'm
stat
not
in.
there, please let me know. I need a complete data set here to be able to do that. But going to the game last night, Clemson's only points in the fourth quarter were the chicken free throws. But South Carolina ends up winning 65-37, and the domination of the fourth quarter was certainly the story of the games. We cut 25. Jen Don, after the game, talked about dominating in the fourth quarter.
I mean, we had a good group that was disciplined. Like, sometimes you go an entire game and one group just is more linked and connected, and that group that was out there was very predictable, and they were linked in together, and I think what we failed to realize is Clemson was just basically taking the air out of the ball by fluffing it till about 8 seconds left on the shot clock. And then they run their short shot clock options. And they did that all game long. Our offense is what forced us to have to play defense for a long time, because we took ill-advised shots, quick shots, no reversals. And if you're going to play that way, you have to play defense for a very long time. And that's what happened to us tonight.
And offensively, they did struggle. 65 points. They didn't necessarily play the cleanest of basketball. Again, you heard Don, not a lot of ball reversals. Sometimes the ball movement got stagnant. Sometimes the offense, quite frankly, got stagnant throughout the course of the night last night. But defensively, when you hold an opponent to 37 points, yeah, maybe you can be a little more stagnant. Not something you want to do for the rest of the season, right? When you do start playing opponents of a higher caliber, they do play Southern Cal this weekend in Los Angeles. You're going to have to be a little more crisp on offense to be able to win that game and get a good resume booster on the sheet here once we start getting to resume season. But still a win. Joyce Edwards, 18 points, the leading scorer last night for South Carolina. She also ended up grabbing 8 rebounds. And, it does help that if the perimeter's not playing very well, it's very nice to have Joyce Edwards there as kind of like your offensive safety net to just get number 8 the ball and let her score, because she did that a few times last night whenever things kind of stalled out a bit. She looked pretty good.
I'm thinking that was a good recruit.
I think so.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. I can see why she was maybe the number 1 player in the country.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I do enjoy listening to her post game. She's kind of quick and answers, very quick and succinctly, but I think she's a good representative for them for sure, in how she responds to some of the questions.
I love when players give me really good basketball answers, because I'm such a sicko for the sport. I love talking like X's and O's, and I remember asking Joyce Edwards after the game about what Clemson was doing offensively by taking the air out of the ball, playing a lot of 5 out. Clemson, for most of their possessions, played all 5 players outside of the 3-point line, which I thought is interesting. When you're playing a team that you're at an obvious size disadvantage like Clemson was, that's probably the best strategy to go, is to space the floor out, maybe pull some of the bigs for South Carolina away from the basket. And I thought Clemson did a good job of doing that, and they held onto the ball a lot. They had long possessions, and Joyce was talking about guarding split screen or split actions, having to do a lot of off-ball stuff, and she went into pretty good depth about what it took against an offensive look like that to make it to where you kind of discourage teams from doing that the rest of the season. And if we had time, we'd play it. But it was a really good answer. Joyce gives really good basketball answers. She's got a really good basketball mind. But coming up next, it's time to give out some awards. We'll put people on the line later in the hour, but coming up next, it's time to give our Denny Green Awards for claiming they are who we thought they were, and that's next. It's starting to get a little colder outside. Maybe golfing outdoors is not the chosen selection, right? Maybe because it is a little bit chillier, or you just want a good place to hang out with your buddies, hit some golf balls, have some TVs on in the background, and have all that fun all in the same place. You could do that at Pro Swing. That's one of my favorite things about Pro Swing is the golf zone.
Still working I-20 eastbound at Highway 1. Also, do have some slower traffic, some stop and go. I-26 eastbound between mile marker 102 and 107B. So basically between Lake Murray Boulevard and I-20, slow down as is fairly typical for your weekday mornings. 65, that'll be the high with some breezy conditions today, overnight low 40. 69 tomorrow, overnight low of 40. So still going to have those chilly mornings, but getting a little bit warmer during the day. We welcome that. 70 for Friday, mid-70s for the weekend. It's still kind of holding steady currently at 38.
We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were.
Let them off the hook. And that's what we're doing here. We're not letting them off the hook, but we will claim that teams are who we thought they were. It's time to give our Denny Green Awards from the world of football from over the weekend. And I've got a few really good ones. A few that have kind of sat on me for a little bit. And the first one, because I know I've beaten up on this guy a lot this year, Hugh Freeze is on this list, man. Hugh Freeze. It's not just the weirdness of this year with, oh, any of these 3 guys could be our quarterback this year. Oh, we have 3 different play callers for different situations during the game. And it wasn't just that. I think this is a predictably the wrong hire for this program, for Auburn, right? I think if he didn't beat Nick Saban twice, in the 2010s, he is not being considered to be the head coach at Auburn. Well, that went downhill pretty quickly. He got fired after a 10-3 loss to Kentucky, lowly Kentucky, at home, mind you. Offensive sputtering, again, 3 points against Kentucky. And what does Auburn do the first game after Hugh Freeze is fired with DJ Durkin as the head coach? Scoring 38 points. Now, they lose to Vanderbilt in overtime, but they scored a lot of points. They said, hey, we have number 8. We have Cam Coleman. Maybe one of those talented receivers in college football, not named Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. Let's just throw that guy the football. That's our best player. Let's just throw him the football and see what happens. And unbelievably, and by that I mean very believably, it yielded pretty good results for Auburn. Again, they lost the game in overtime, but they definitely had Vanderbilt on the ropes on the road, and Cam Coleman catches 10 passes for 143 yards and 1 touchdown. If supposed offensive genius Hugh Freeze couldn't realize that in the first 9 games of the season, hey, let's just get that guy the ball, and couldn't figure out a way to get that guy the ball, what were you doing all year? But Hugh Freeze, come on, man. You are exactly who we thought you were. And the oddness for Auburn also continues because DJ Durkin, the interim head coach, who is the supposed defensive genius, well, they give up 45 to Vanderbilt. And Diego Pavia, who isn't necessarily known for air raiding it out, right? He does a lot of really good stuff with the football. He's a really good operator of that offense. Threw for 377 yards. Obviously a career high. 377. The defense got torched. So them losing that game was odd and kind of funny. But Auburn's success as soon as Hugh Freeze leaves kind of tells us that he is exactly who we thought he is. I want to put Georgia on this list, too, in a good way, right? Because Georgia has kind of played with their food the last couple of years in terms of playing teams on the road and playing down a little bit. Even when they played Mississippi State last year, defensively, they played down. Mississippi State scored a lot of points on them in Athens last year. But you know what they did when they went to Starkville on Saturday? And we haven't gotten to talk about this game as much because it is kind of buried underneath a lot of other notable college football headlines. But Georgia went to Mississippi State and smacked them in the mouth and did what Georgia has been doing to teams like Mississippi State since Kirby Smart's been the head coach. They played great defense. They ran the ball well. Nate Frazier, 12 carries, 181 yards and a touchdown, running the ball that effectively. When we've seen them have to win kind of different ways this year, Gunnar Stockton was incredible. You had a really good quarterback play from him, throwing for 264 in 3 scores. But Georgia winning a game in which it was not even close. The score was 41-21. Spiritually, it was like 56-14. It felt like it was worse. It was an actual beatdown through that game. One team clearly superior at the line of scrimmage, clearly superior at every other part of the field. And in the year in which Mississippi State is actually an improved football team, broke their SEC winless streak, or their SEC losing streak, they are improved, and they are a solid football team. But Georgia, in their run of 2 national championships and being at the height of relevancy like they are right now, used to win games a lot like that. The last little bit, they've slipped. They escaped that game against Florida. Didn't necessarily play their best. But for the first time this year, they are looking like the team that I thought would be playing in the SEC championship game in Atlanta in the first weekend in December. But also a team I got to put on this list on who they are, exactly who we thought they were. And laughably so, Iowa. And not because they lost the game, not just because they gave Oregon a game, but Kinnick Stadium is a house of horrors in the Big Ten. It is tough to play there.
What are the elements that make it so difficult?
It is that defense. Mm-hmm. It is Phil Parker as the defensive coordinator, maybe being the most underrated coordinator in college football in my lifetime, at least. It's the weather. It's the environment. Because they do get up for every game. No matter how good Iowa is any given season, they pack the place out, and it's a tough place to play.
Because, again, what else is there to do in Iowa?
Exactly. But
so
go to the Iowa football game. Exactly.
I grew up in the Midwest. I can say that.
That's right. If anybody has the Midwest dunking card, it's Jen Jensen.
Yeah.
Anyone here is legally allowed to dunk on Iowa.
Yep. And I can do all the corny jokes I want. Sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, that was good. I still wish that Iowa State and Kansas State leaned into the Farmageddon nickname because
that would have been a genius.
Lean into it. Yeah. It's great. It's a great nickname. But
I agree.
Iowa is exactly what we thought they were, and here's how predictable it was. Kirk Herbstreit, who did pick Iowa to win, he did say it would be about a 15-13 game, and maybe Iowa ends up kicking a field goal to win, so I got to give Iowa the edge. Well, close. Kirk, you were close. It was 16-15 Iowa in the last minute of the game when Oregon kicked a field goal to walk it off. There is no football game easier on planet Earth to predict than an Iowa football game. So Iowa giving Oregon all the hell in the world they had to deal with, and it being that close of a game with neither team scoring 20 points, you are exactly who we thought you were, and your reputation precedes you. One for the NFL. And I'm not just saying that because I got to witness my terrible favorite NFL team win on the road. Always a fun feeling as a fan, going into a road environment, coming out with a win. Not just because the Saints won, but the Carolina Panthers. Now they're better. They're improved. I think they've played well this year. And that Enrico Dowdle is having an all-pro caliber year. But they're not ready for it yet. Teams that are good and ready for playoff football don't lose to 1-8 teams in your division that come into your stadium. And not only do they not lose those games, they score more than 7 points in those games. They eclipse 200 yards of total offense, something that the Carolina Panthers did neither of on Sunday. They were held to 195 yards. They score a touchdown on the first drive and proceed to not score the rest of the game. Carolina Panthers, you're good, you're improved, and I like the trajectory, but you're not there yet. And Sunday proved it, so the Carolina Panthers are exactly who I thought they were. Now, some of you who are Panthers fans might want to put the Carolina Panthers on the line. Well, there's many people we can put on the line, and we're going to do that next. tax issues or something that's weighing you down, like it has for a lot of people. Look, people may not talk about that openly, but there are a lot of people, especially people that you may know, that are dealing with some personal income tax issues or business tax issues. And as somebody who is maybe a little out of their depth when it comes to handling the specifics of taxes, you wouldn't come to me to fix your problem, right? But I can direct you to someone who can, and that's John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm, where they have been taking care of folks here in this area. They'll have a local team that's been resolving local solutions to income or business tax issues and fixing them for good. John and his team at the Ecton Law Firm understand the challenges that you and your business can face, and that's why they are perfectly equipped to offer you one of the most important things in life, peace of mind, to help escape that IRS maze. So take the first step today and schedule a free consultation at 803-771-9800 or always online at ectonlawfirm.com. It's ectonlawfirm.com.
You're all running out of time. You was late to my practice, sir? Everybody on the line.
Everybody on the line. Oh, and it's Wednesday, and it's right before we get to the 8 o'clock hour, so you already know what time it is right now. It's time to put some folks on the line, and there are so many choices that we could choose from. There's so many. But I want to start off with one of a coach in college football who committed my ultimate pet peeve in coaching. And that's coaching scared. And that's settling for field goals in a game in which field goals will not get it done. Now, credit LSU's defense for holding Alabama to 20 points. That's difficult to do. Alabama's got a high-octane offense. Ty Simpson has played his way into Heisman candidacy. Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard are one of the best, if not the best, 1-2 wide receiver combo in college football. If there are better ones, I will take suggestions, but ultimately those guys are at the top level of wide receiver combos. You know that scoring points and scoring touchdowns and getting into the end zone was going to be a way to win the game. That was the only way to win the game. You are not going to beat Alabama 3 points at a time. But during that game, Frank Wilson, the interim head coach at LSU, which could use this as a stepping stone to maybe getting a head coaching job somewhere else, decided to settle for a couple field goals late in the game. Now, I get one of them did make it a one-score game technically, but ultimately you have to be able to get in the end zone. You got to punch it in. And on one field goal attempt, they attempted 4 field goals, missed one of them. I don't know if I'm trusting my kicker, as good as he may be, to kick enough field goals to be able to win that game against an offense that is scoring at warp speed, mind you. One of them was a 4th and 6. That was the missed field goal. Another field goal that they hit and made was a 4th and 2 on Alabama's 20. Probably could use 6 points right there. And then another field goal to make it 17-6 as opposed to 17-3 was a 4th and goal. But as a 4th and goal at Alabama 27 because penalties and stupid sacks took you out of it. So that one's a little more understandable. But the one to make it 17-3, you really need to get in the end zone. Or make it 3-3. You really need to get in the end zone. You don't know how many times you're getting back against that defense. Because that's my one thing. Sometimes settling for field goals operates under the assumption that we're going to keep getting back to the red zone. LSU didn't have many red zone trips. And when you spend those red zone trips kicking field goals, I have no choice but to tell you to get on the line. Hated that. Absolutely hated that. And I got to put Washington on here too, right? Because Washington finally cracked the top 25. Jed Fish has had his struggles here in the early tenure of coaching at Washington. He finally gets into the top 25, but you got to go on the road to Camp Randall. And it's not that they lost to Wisconsin, because if Wisconsin just played a really good game offensively and just beat you, then you can live with that result, right? Yes, there'll be things that you regret, things that you want to change, but something that you could live with, right? But when Wisconsin's passing attack featured 50% of their passing yards coming from their punter, losing a game where you only gave up 48 passing yards shouldn't happen at all, even if you're playing a service academy. But to lose while giving up 50% of that team's passing yards to a punter and completely shooting yourself in the foot throughout the entirety of that game and now getting yourself out of the top 25, Jed Fish, Washington, get on the line. Oh, it was atrocious. They're not going to live that one down. That's one where you have a chance to climb a little bit in playoff rankings, build your program a bit. And all a loss like that does is set you back. I'm not going to put Terry Ford on the line. He brought me coffee. He knows what I'm going through this morning. He brought me a cup of coffee. We'll be caffeinated and ready for hour number 3 coming up next. Thanksgiving is coming up, and it will be who is calling their first plays in the SEC. Not an easy task at all. We'll continue to put people on the line. Before we get to my man Ray on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, Rooster P, a fair sentiment here, the one that I share. Rooster P on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100, says, I want YouTube TV and Disney/ESPN on the line for absolutely holding my sports viewing hostage. And you know what? I think we got to keep banging that drum until something happens, because you can blame YouTube TV, you can blame Disney and ESPN. I like to blame both, because in negotiations can be a team sport. And it seems like there's not a lot of budging going on. And I appreciate YouTube TV's efforts to keep that bill down. But at the same time, got to get that fixed. I can only pirate streams or use passwords from friends and family members for their services for so long. I would like to get back to YouTube TV. So Rooster P, I'm with you. YouTube TV and Disney ESPN, because this is a team effort. Get on the line. That's maybe one of the biggest ones of the season so far. Oh, don't even get me started. But we'll go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. My man Ray is calling in this morning. Ray, good morning. Welcome to the early game. Nice to hear from you.
Good morning, Elijah. Good morning, Jen. And good morning, Big Ed. Well, guys, I tell you, do you know what happened with the Panthers this weekend?
What happened where?
From what I understand, Mike Shula was actually in Charlotte. I don't know if he went to the game, but just his mere appearance in Queen City, his offensive acumen kind of rubbed off on the Panthers. But anyway, I was listening to Coach Beamer, and he was kind of
7:30 segment talking about how I think this guy is maybe the best defensive coordinator in college football. He's one of the most underrated quarterbacks, most underrated coordinators in my lifetime. And I think people that are older than me that have a more vivid memory of, 80s and 70s college football can attest to maybe that being true too, to beyond just my football viewing experience. Like Phil Parker has been an elite defensive coordinator, and there's not a year where Iowa has a bad defense. But why don't they win Big Ten championships? Why don't they get into the college football playoff? Why don't they reach their ceiling of what their program can be? It's because they've dilly-dallied on offense, and they've completely been moving backwards, and they've been 100% inept for years. It's not just that Iowa's offense has been bad, it's been flat out unacceptable. And it doesn't matter how great your defense is. When you can't score points, you're not going to be able to realize the potential you have on your teams. And it's not like Iowa's had scrub offensive players too. They've had almost every good tight end you can think of in the NFL right now. George Kittle was on those Iowa teams. TJ Hawkinson was on those Iowa teams. Noah Fant was a really good tight end for those Iowa teams, right? And his career is picking up a little bit. But there are a lot of countless tight ends that are playing. Sam Laporta right now, who was an immediate impact for the Detroit Lions his rookie year as a tight end. Played at Iowa. They're great run blockers. They're great pass catchers. There's an offensive identity there, but it doesn't translate to points. It's good to have the identity, but you got to translate it into points. But the offensive handcuffing that Iowa has done has kept them from being able to break past 9 wins in a regular season, or to be able to win a Big Ten championship. Now, Kirk Ferentz has gotten them to Big Ten title games, but they can't win them because you have to outscore some of the elite offenses in your league, like Michigan some years, Ohio State, and right now Indiana's proven to be an elite offense in that conference. And you can play an elite offense as an elite defense, play a great game, and still give up 17 points. And if your offense isn't scoring more than 2 touchdowns in a game, you're not going to give yourself a chance. And what we have here at South Carolina is starting to look kind of similar. Not to the extreme that Iowa is, because Iowa's offense is straight up costing them chances at Big Ten titles and college football playoff appearances. But what we've seen at South Carolina the last few years is the offense taking way too long throughout the year to get ready. Now, we saw what the offense did last year in the last 6 games, and it was remarkable. You're running the ball incredibly well. Lenore Sellers is breaking out as a passer, and he's already broken out as a runner. He's already establishing himself as one of the more gifted quarterbacks in college football. That's how you're able to win 6 straight games to end your regular season. But what cost you was the first 6. The reason you weren't in the college football playoff last year was not some evil doing by the committee. It was your inability to close out the LSU game. It was your inability to make enough offensive plays against Alabama. And it was your inability to do anything offensively against Ole Miss in a 27-3 loss. And Ole Miss and Alabama just so happened to be in front of you in the college football playoff rankings. 2022, you ended on a really good note because you did hang 63 on a Tennessee team that was in position to play in a 4-team college football playoff. You did score enough points to be able to beat a good Clemson team on the road in 2022 against a really good defensive unit. You figured it out, but you figured it out after 10 games in the regular season. Those 2 games that I just alluded to were, as we all know, the last 2. And you didn't play well enough offensively in the first 10 of that year to maybe reach what that team's potential could have been. And in 2023, you had a first-round pick at wide receiver in Xavier Legette and an NFL quarterback in Spencer Rattler, but the offensive line had injuries, and they just weren't deep enough to be able to account for the injuries they had. Those are all failures of the offense. They're failures in the offensive coordinator, and they're all failures of the head coach too, because that chain of command goes all the way up. Everybody can take blame there. And what can really hold you back is if you don't land the OC hire. You don't take care of things like moving backwards. Negative play rate are things that can hold you back. Bad play calling can hold you back. Taking a lot of sacks and bad protection can hold you back. And that's really what's holding this team back right now. The defense has played really well, and you got to give Clayton White credit, and really Shane for bringing in Clayton White, because once Clayton got it figured out, he's built a defensive program that is built to have some sustainability. He's recruiting really well. They're bringing guys in from the transfer portal who are impact players like Justin Okoronkwo, Brandon Cisse, and then last year, to a much better degree, your Kyle Kennards and your Demetrius Knights. Those type of players that you bring in, and they hit on those evaluations, and they develop them a little bit more once they actually get here. You're seeing player development on the defensive side. You're seeing impact transfers, but the offense needs to hold up their end of the bargain. And so far this year, it has nowhere near been acceptable when it comes to holding up their end of the bargain. So I understand maybe some defensiveness in your way of getting to the decision you made to bring in certain offensive coordinators, but at the end of the day, it just hasn't been good enough. And that's why I don't think we can understate how important this offensive coordinator search is for Shane and this program, right? Because again, we've laid it all out there. You don't want to be Iowa. Now, you'd be cool with being Iowa in terms of being a program that is always getting 8 or 9 wins. That is an awesome place to be. But you handcuff what your potential is when you completely neglect one side of the ball, like Iowa has. I'm not saying South Carolina is neglecting the offensive side of the ball, but they need that to get better and be complete for an entire season to ultimately achieve the goals that this 2025 team set out to achieve in the summer, in fall camp, or even back in the spring, right? Their whole motto for the season was going farther this year, and farther indicated going more and deeper into the college football playoff picture than you were last year, which was right on the cusp of it. You were talked about as a team that could get into the college football playoff, that could contend for making that prestigious event for the first time in your school's history. But again, some of the things that held you back are some of the things that have plagued you in previous years here in this tenure. So when we say that this is the most important offensive coordinator hire, I don't think we can undersell it. And whatever Shane's process is in finding that guy can be good in his mind, but the results have been flawed, meaning the process might have to change a little bit, and you might have to get outside of your comfort zone to do it. So he can say that, but that won't change the reality of this is vitally important to turning around the direction of your program and sustaining success. Because we've seen success under Shane Beamer. We know what that looks like under Shane. But sustaining it is the big thing. You followed up an 8-win season in 2022 with a 5-win season in 23. And this year you followed up a 9-win season in 24 with a 3-6 start, and now you got to go to Texas A&M, who's number 3 in the country, on the road, and be able to pull off that win if you want to play in a bowl game. All of those things kind of factor in, but the main part is you don't want to turn in to Iowa. We'll listen to more of that Shane Beamer press conference yesterday because there are a couple of interesting things about what Mike Furry's doing to change things up on offense. Shane said they are tweaking a few things. Well, what does tweaking a few things look like? We'll hear from Coach Beamer on the other side as you're listening to the early game.
Boulevard near O'Neill Court.
Our Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100, because we're continuing to put folks on the line. Mark texts in and says, please put the absurd college football coach contract buyouts on the line. Consecutive losing records should be for cause firings. Well, you got to put that in the contract. That's the big thing. And for those who haven't kept up, it is a discombobulated mess between Brian Kelly and LSU, figuring out how they're going to pay out that coaching buyout. Again, that's like a $50+ million coaching buyout, and LSU don't want to have to pay all that money. And now they're trying to find a way to fire him for cause, even though I don't know. I guess if the paperwork has been officially filed, but he didn't coach the last game, so he has been technically relieved of his duties. It's a mess, and we have more time this week to be able to get into that. But yes, certainly coaching contracts here since 2021, which I think 2021 has kind of been the beginning of the rise of really bad, not so well thought out coaching contracts. Since then, yeah, absolutely have to put them on the line. But we were going to talk about the offensive coordinator change, because it doesn't happen a ton in season, right? A lot of times these moves are made after the year, but with the way this South Carolina football season has gone and the way the offense has struggled, again, we have topped out at 22 offensive points in a game this season. I think that cause for some desperation. It's cause for some immediate change. And I think that change is certainly warranted. But you can't help sometimes when you have to play certain teams determined by the league. You would prefer maybe not to have somebody calling their first offensive game against the number 3 team in the country on the road, especially with the task already of trying to fix an offense that has underachieved and has cost you games this year. Well, that's what Mike Furry, wide receivers coach at South Carolina, now the interim play caller, co-OC right now, is tasked with. It's not easy. So what changes do you make? How different do you make this thing? What kind of tweaks can you make to this offense to make it suitable for Saturday, to give yourself a puncher's chance in this type of ball game? Well, Shane Beamer was asked that yesterday, so we cut 10, Jen. This is what Shane said the tweaks of the offense might look like.
I'd say there's been a pretty good tweaking. There's been some takeout, but then there's also been some add, so when you look at it, I'd say we probably have about the same number, or we will end up, we're getting ready to game plan third down and red zone here this afternoon and tomorrow, but when it all is said and done, we'll end up with about the same amount of plays, and there'll be some things, certainly you can't have radical changes, but there's some things that, from that Mike and Sean and Black and the rest of the staff maybe, like that they want to emphasize, or things that we were doing before that, again, they were part of the offensive staff when Mike Shula was the offensive coordinator, but it wasn't like they just went in their offices and Mike put together the plan and said, here it is. They were all in there and they're all accountable for it. But certainly there's different voices in there now that are leading the way, and there may be some things that they feel a little bit stronger about than maybe Mike did. So yeah, a little bit less of some stuff, maybe a little bit more of things, but ultimately doing what gives us the best chance to be successful, that fits our players, which is what we're trying to do each and every week. But it's been good. It's been good that we had a bye week last week, David. Mike and the offensive staff, they really spent a lot of time the Sunday after the Ole Miss game and then the Monday after the Ole Miss game grinding through, kind of putting together an initial plan, and then Tuesday and Wednesday with meetings and practice, and then Thursday before guys went out on the road recruiting, and then back in here on Sunday. So it's been good. I'm eager to watch them play on Saturday.
Maybe doing more of what Mike Furry wanted to do that maybe Mike Shula didn't prioritize as much. Because, again, the way they're going to operate in terms of a day-to-day operation is going to be similar, right? You'll have the position coach meetings. You're all going to have suggestions as to what gets called and what you like. And ultimately, it's the play caller's decision to play it. There probably were some things that Shane alluded to that maybe Mike Furry likes to run a whole lot more than Mike Shula wanted to run, right? And when Preston and I were talking about this in the first hour of the show, we kind of came to the conclusion we might see more wide receiver involvement. Not just because Mike Furry is the wide receivers coach, but because you do kind of play call based on what a lot of your experience is. Whether you mean to do it or not, it can be completely subliminal. But I have a feeling there might be more wide receiver screens. Again, 12% of South Carolina's passes this year have been screens. Maybe utilizing a lot of the athleticism that Mike Furry knows really well is in that room, more so than anybody in that facility knows is in that room. Then maybe that when it comes to making the decision to call a certain play, one that might get the ball to those playmakers on the perimeter could be prioritized, even if it was not prioritized as much when Mike Shula was the one who was making the call on the field. So that's maybe some of the tweaks that we might see from this team and what the offense might look like. But there's an element of surprise to this too, right? Maybe there was an element of surprise with what Auburn did against Vanderbilt because Auburn fired Hugh Freeze. And yes, while Hugh Freeze said they have 3 different play callers for different situations throughout the game, ultimately the decisions fall at the feet of one Hugh Freeze because he is the head coach. He is the designer of the offense. And he gets fired a day after they scored only 3 points at home to a helpless Kentucky team. Only 3. And then they go to Vanderbilt, a top 20 team in the country, a team that has legitimate college football playoff hopes as we sit right now on November 12th. And they go on the road to Vanderbilt, and they score 38 points. And they take that game to overtime. And they seriously flirt with pulling off a really impressive upset. Maybe there was an element of surprise. Maybe Ashton Daniels taking all of the snaps in that game, now that he's been named the starting quarterback for Auburn, threw a wrinkle into the game plan Vanderbilt maybe wasn't expecting. Maybe they decided with Hugh Freeze gone that we're going to start running a few new things, and that might have thrown Vanderbilt for a loop. Or maybe it's just the simplicity of, hey, Cam Coleman's your best player. Throw number 8 the ball and let him go get it. And they did it to the tune of 10 catches for 140-plus yards. It worked really well for them. Is there an element of surprise that South Carolina can flex in this game that might throw Texas A&M for a loop? And this will be cut number 1, Jen, because Shane was asked that exact same question in yesterday's press conference, and here was his response.
Yeah, I would say, though, that's every week you want to throw some things at teams that they don't expect. I mean, we see it every week because of some of the stuff we've done on special teams. Teams change what they do a lot of the times on Saturdays from a special team standpoint because they're trying to combat some of the stuff that we do to teams from a special team standpoint, and then we have to adjust. So I don't think you'd be doing a great job as a coach if you're not throwing wrinkles, new stuff, plays off plays, whatever it may be. We always try and do that, offense, defense, and special teams. But certainly, Jordan, when you have a change at coordinator, I don't know if they're watching South Carolina stuff. I don't know if they dug up old Limestone College video, Georgia State video, whatever it may be, West Virginia when Blackwell was there with, some of those guys, Will Greer and those guys back in the day. Shout out to Coach Chad Greer. So I think you're always trying to do that, but definitely when you have an off week and you have a new play caller, there's certainly some wrinkles, but, Coach Elko is a brilliant coach, and those defensive coaches are paid well out there to stay on top of that. And then whatever new that we may show Saturday, they'll do a great job of adjusting to it, and then we've got to do a great job adjusting to that.
Now, that's a good point in that is that A&M will adjust, and you got to be able to still take care of business. by executing. Ultimately, you can throw as many surprises that you want, but the bottom line is that the players are still going to have to execute whatever it is called. We'll continue the discussion about the offensive coordinating vacancy. Our man Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier joins us next. It's time to phone a friend. Time to head out. The Charlton Post and Courier. Talk to my man Scott Hamilton, who I sat next to at the Carolina-Clemson women's basketball game last night. And Scott graciously spending some time to hang out with me this morning. Scott, appreciate you joining as always. How you hanging in there? Oh. A little technical difficulties there while we wait for Scott. Not ideal. But we'll wait for Scott. We'll figure it out there. But Scott Hamilton for the Post and Courier, if he's not able to join us this segment, we'll figure it out, and we can get him over in the next segment. But Scott has done a really good job this year at not just covering this team, but he's an AP top 25 voter. And he explains a lot of what he does decision-wise throughout the year. So I'm excited to kind of pick his brain on the college football playoff, because I do have one really big question that I'm excited for Scott to be able to answer. And that's kind of the Miami situation. Now, we'll ask about the offensive coordinator, because we still, a lot of the same thoughts and sentiments that I have, I think Scott does too, in terms of why the decision was made, what we can reasonably expect in a game against Texas A&M, against the number 3 team in the country. How much can things actually change with a bye week and making a change dramatic as changing the offensive coordinator? But I have a Miami question, because the college football playoff rankings were released last night too, and I'm really curious as to what Scott feels about this, because the ACC, I think, while improved, right? I think the top teams in the ACC are good football teams. I don't think they're any great football teams in the league, but there are good teams. But it is kind of a drunken mess right now because of all the one-loss teams you have in that league, and not everybody plays each other, which is a whole other issue at hand, right, with bloated mega conferences. I think you hear Scott. Scott, you got me? No, we're still waiting on him. But I did hear something. But the ACC is a discombobulated mess. Miami has the best resume of anybody in that league in terms of having a win on the resume that you can show to the committee saying, hey, this is a win in our non-conference worthy of getting us into the college football playoff. And the committee agrees with that, because that's why they're the highest ranked ACC team. Well, once we get to actually fielding the playoff, it's not the highest ranked ACC team that gets to be the ACC representative. It's the ACC champion. And right now, Miami is behind 6 different teams in the ACC standings, and you got to be in the top 2 to be able to get to the ACC championship game. So the committee will ultimately have a Miami question that is going to be fascinating to see how they deal with it. Now, of course, other things can happen in the world of college football, to where teams like BYU getting another loss, or Texas losing to Georgia or Texas A&M, making it maybe a little easier for Miami to leapfrog them and maybe not need to win the ACC to get in. But ultimately, it does kind of feel like their destiny's not in their hands right now. We'll try Scott again. Scott, we got you?
Yeah, man. How are you?
There he is. Look at the smooth, syrupy tones of one Scott Hamilton. I'm doing fantastic. You doing good this morning? Man. I would. You could do a killer audiobook. Have you ever thought about doing that? Don't think you have.
Do what, brother?
I said you could record a killer audiobook with that voice. And I scared him off. We'll try to get Scott. We'll work some of that out. We'll work some of that out here. But a lot of things to look for in the college football playoff. We'll continue kind of talking about that too, because there are a lot of different things that we talked about in the first segment of the last hour. Because the Miami question's a fascinating one, right? That one is going to be a real stress test on what the committee values. And I'm getting a thumbs up from one Jen Jensen. Scott Hamilton, do we have you, sir?
Have you got me now?
That's right. I feel like this is like, what was that, a Verizon commercial? Can you hear me now? Good.
Yeah, you're dating yourself.
I am a little bit. Well, I can't remember the exact phone carrier that did that ad, but I do remember those ads. I'm now further removed from it to where like I've kind of memory hold which company it was, but those were good ads. But Scott, appreciate you joining us as always, and we'll go ahead and get into the South Carolina offensive coordinator discussion, because we've been talking about that a lot today. Mike Furry now takes over. He's going to be calling the plays against Texas A&M. It's a tough task, because you know how good this team is. As an AP top 25 voter, you know exactly how good Texas A&M is. What do you think can realistically change for this offense just to give South Carolina a chance to be able to pull off that upset?
I really don't know. I mean, it's the same personnel. At the end of the day, it's the same plays. I presume the same concepts. I mean,
He's executing really is the big thing. But when it comes to like the future of the offensive coordinator position, like we can throw names out there, and I love playing the game of who would you want to go get, right? Like I love making the wish list, and I love like, oh, this guy would be awesome to have here, right? Like my personal wish list has someone like Brennan Marion at Sacramento State, who has a very unique passing attack offense. Probably not a realistic one, but when it comes to like realistic options for this position, for this program, what are the things that you're kind of looking for as maybe a seamless fit here at South Carolina?
A guy who's a college offensive coordinator, not a guy who's going to come in and run a pro offense. And I know that sounds simple, but it really is a thing. That was Mike Shula's background. And I'm going to be candid with you, Elijah. I'm not very bullish on this position. People call it a coveted position and all that, and I get it. 12 months ago, man, there would have been guys climbing over each other to get this job. But going forward, I don't know. If I'm an up and coming offensive coordinator, first of all, let's break it down like this. And if you've got a moment, the coaching carousel is going to impact South Carolina's offensive coordinator search, because the really top tier offensive coordinators are probably going to go with a coach to an LSU, to a Penn State, to a Florida, places like that, or they're going to get jobs themselves. And we're talking about at the P4 level, we're talking about at the G6 level. And then the up-and-comers, will move up. Anybody with an existing resume or anybody who has a very high ceiling as an offensive coordinator is going to be leery of this job. Because they don't know who's going to be the quarterback. I pretty much can guarantee you the offensive line will not be greatly improved. It surely will be better, I would hope. Questions at wide receiver. But here's the big elephant in the room. Let's say it's another bummer of a year. There's a real possibility that there's another coaching change, which means another coaching change throughout the assistant ranks as well. Do you come somewhere for 1 year? Do you take that chance? The only coach I could see that would take a chance, the only kind of coach I can see that would take a chance in this situation, this scenario, would be somebody who wants a shot, who wants to go in and be able to at least have 1 year of SEC coaching experience as an OC on his resume before moving on. That's the only candidate I see that would take this position.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you there. And I want to continue this discussion on the side. We'll carry it over into our winners segment sponsored by Golden Spur, because Scott Hamilton is a winner. So we'll continue our discussion with Scott coming up next to round out today's early game.
cannot win with them, cannot coach with them, can't do it. I want winners. Winners.
Yeah, my man Scott Hamilton's a winner. Our Golden winner, sponsored by Golden Spur. And Scott, I've given you the platform as a winner, so we need a winning breakdown here of the college football playoff. Because earlier I was talking about the Miami situation. I think this may be in terms of like fascinating things to watch for. The ACC has become a fascinating case study in how we're going to kind of start policing resumes in college football and looking at conferences that are not the Big Ten and the SEC, because there's like a 5-way tie, or at least having one team a half game back, but 5 teams with 1 loss in ACC play, and then Louisville and Miami on the outside. But Miami is the highest ranked team in the ACC. Now, at the end of the season, you know as well as anybody else that watches and covers the sport that it's not the ACC's highest ranked team that gets in. It's the one that's guaranteed to get in is the ACC champion. So if Miami isn't able to play in the ACC title game, what does that change in terms of what this picture ends up looking like when we're talking about the finished product in December?
I don't see the ACC. I don't see a world where the ACC gets 2 teams in. I really don't, man. I really don't. And I wrote about this on PostandCourier.com a couple of weeks ago that there is no viable path for Miami to make the playoff, or rather realistic path. I mean, of course, any number of things could happen and they get to the game and all that, but there are so many teams in front of them, and they don't play each other because there's 18 billion squads in that conference, and it's just so convoluted. And I don't know what to make of the committees ranking Miami that high. I truly don't, because I mean, I was at Georgia Tech Clemson. Georgia Tech's a good football team, and they've also got only 1 loss. I don't know if it's by virtue of Miami beating Notre Dame. I don't know if they're hanging. I mean, and maybe that tells us a lot, Elijah, about the committee. Are they now valuing wins more than they're penalizing losses? They've done that in the past. There have been committees in the past who tended more to deem teams for losing games rather than rewarding teams for winning games. Maybe this is a positive-minded committee, but I just don't see Miami being in the mix. I think this will play itself out, and candidly, I will tell you, of all the ACC teams that are even being tossed around, I think the best one in the mix might be sitting there at number 22, Pittsburgh.
Oh, they're playing awesome right now. Offensively, they're clicking.
Well, and it's kind of funny. Don't make me pronounce the kid's name, but they put that freshman in at quarterback, and everything just sort of flipped. And I was actually high on the team going into this year. I was high on Pitt going into this year, but then they wobbled a bit, and everybody's like, "Oh, here we go." You know, Pitt's going to collapse. It's what happens, under Narduzzi. But here they are in the mix, and Desmond Reed. I'm on the Football Writers Association All-American panel. Desmond Reed is a fantastic athlete at running back. So I'd keep an eye on Pitt, but I wouldn't worry too much about Miami. I don't see them going to the playoff, and then we start wondering about Cristobal.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh thing's fascinating because I think they have what I would consider maybe the most dumbfounding loss of the college football year, losing at West Virginia, which is a really bad West Virginia team. And then of course they make the change at quarterback, and they end up hanging 48 on Boston College, 34 on Florida State, 30 on Syracuse, 53 on NC State, and they scored 35 in the win at Stanford. Pitt is so intriguing. But Scott, we got about a minute here left for you. Your winner for today in sports. It could be anybody, anywhere, anytime. You know the segment. Your winner for today.
I've literally been up for like an hour. I don't know what's going on today in the world of sports. I mean, it might be. I guess it's me. You said I was the winner.
I gave you a winner. I gave you a winner tag. A helmet sticker.
I'm going to say the winner for today is Iowa, man. The committee seems to be putting some love on the Iowa Hawkeyes.
They have.
Number 21.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 3 losses, Elijah, and they're at number 21.
Could you imagine what that program would be if they decided they wanted to score points?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, would they lose their whole identity? Would the defense crumble on the back of that? I mean, Kirk Ferentz has been there friggin' forever, and they are who they are, and we laugh about it and we joke about it, but
Iowa just wins ball games, man. And I saw an interesting stat earlier, and I'll let you go after this. David Hale of ESPN, really great guy. He tweeted this out: the longest active streaks amongst college football teams without losing a game by more than a touchdown. Iowa is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th on that list. Iowa has gone 15 straight games without losing by more than a touchdown.
Wow. Oh, that is pretty remarkable. That's a winning stat. That's the type of stats we want to see here on Winners. So, Scott, appreciate your time as always. Got to get you in the studio here sometime, man, but appreciate your time.
Tell me when, brother.
Oh, good stuff from Scott. Thank you all for joining us here today. Exciting show planned for tomorrow. Mike Furry going to talk today. Clayton White going to talk today. We'll hear from them tomorrow, and a whole lot more. Underdog Challenge, all that good stuff. But Tyler Head, Jack Veltri, they're next.